There is a specific kind of financial progress that does not show up in any advice column and does not trend on any finance forum and almost nobody talks about out loud. It is the progress that comes not from finding new ways to earn more or invest smarter, but from looking honestly at the things you buy every single month and asking whether those things are working for you or quietly working against you. James kept a spending journal for 1 full year, and at the end of that year he went through every category and marked the ones that had genuinely made his life better and the ones that had simply been there because they had always been there. 10 categories did not survive that review. Not because James was trying to deprive himself of things he loved, but because when he looked at each one honestly the answer was the same. This was never really about the thing itself. Today we are going to go through all 10 of them one by one and look at exactly why each one felt necessary in the moment and exactly what stopping it revealed. Some of these will feel obvious when you hear them, and some of them will surprise you, and at least one of them is probably sitting in your own spending right now, making you quietly poorer in a way you have not named yet. Number 1. Extended warranties. James used to buy the extended warranty on almost everything: the television and the washing machine and the laptop and the kitchen appliances. The sales pitch always felt reasonable. For just a small extra amount you are protected if anything goes wrong. What James eventually understood is that extended warranties are one of the most profitable products in all of retail, and they are profitable specifically because they pay out so rarely. The failure rates on most modern electronics and appliances within the warranty period are very low. Manufacturers already know this. The standard manufacturer warranty covers the period during which failures are most statistically likely to occur. The extended warranty is covering a period of lower risk at a price that assumes higher risk. James calculated what he had spent on extended warranties over 6 years. It was just over $900 across various purchases. He then looked at how many times he had actually made a claim, twice, and what those claims had paid out. A combined total of about $140. He had spent $900 to receive $140 in benefit. The extended warranty is a fear product, and it is priced by people who have access to far more data about failure rates than you do when you are standing at the checkout. James stopped buying them entirely and put the equivalent amount into a small self-insurance fund that now sits comfortably available for any genuine repair that arises. Number 2. Just-in-case purchases. This is one of the least examined spending categories in most people's financial lives, and it is remarkably expensive when you look at it clearly. Just-in-case purchases are items bought not because you need them right now, but because you might need them at some uncertain point in the future, and the possibility of that future need feels uncomfortable enough that spending money on it now feels like a reasonable way to resolve the discomfort. James had a storage cupboard that was almost entirely made up of just-in-case purchases. A spare set of cables for a device he no longer owned. A folding table bought in case he ever hosted a large gathering. He had not hosted a large gathering in 4 years. A set of tools purchased in case a home repair situation arose, most of which were available for loan from his building's maintenance room at no cost. A set of formal shoes bought in case he needed to attend a very formal event. He had attended no such event. When James added up the cost of everything in his just-in-case cupboard, the total was over $2,000. The money had not bought security. It had bought the feeling of security, a subtle but enormously important distinction. The actual security it provided was minimal because most just-in-case scenarios either never arrived or were handleable in the moment through borrowing or renting or simply managing without. James began applying a single honest question before any just-in-case purchase. If this scenario actually arrives, what is the realistic cost of handling it then versus the certain cost of buying now and storing indefinitely? In almost every case, the honest answer revealed that buying now was the more expensive option. Number 3. Brand name medications. This one produces strong reactions when people first hear it, so let us look at the actual science before anything else. In every country where pharmaceutical generic equivalents are regulated, the active ingredient in a generic medication is required by law to be chemically identical to the brand name version in type and concentration and bioavailability. When you buy a branded painkiller and the pharmacy shelf beside it has a generic version at a third of the price, you are not buying a better product. You are buying a name and a box and a marketing budget and a history of advertising that trained you to associate that name with effectiveness. James switched every over-the-counter medication in his household to the generic equivalent. The only change he noticed was in the price. The relief from a headache was identical. The effectiveness of the allergy tablet was identical. The antacid worked in the same way at the same speed. He calculated what he saved annually on this single category. It was small on its own, roughly $80 to $100 per year. But what interested him was not the amount. It was what the switch revealed about the nature of the premium he had been paying. He had been paying for confidence, for the feeling that the branded version was somehow more reliable. And that feeling had no basis in chemistry. It had a basis in decades of very effective advertising. Number 4, the hobby tax. The hobby tax is the cluster of purchases that accumulate around any new interest or activity in the first 3 to 6 months before you know whether the interest will actually last. James had paid the hobby tax on photography, the camera and the lenses and the editing software and the dedicated bag and the extra batteries and the cleaning kit. He had paid it on home brewing, the starter kit and the specialist ingredients and the secondary fermentation vessel and the bottle capper. He had paid it on road cycling, the entry-level road bike and the clipless pedals and the cycling shoes and the gloves and the specific water bottle holders. Each of these interests lasted between 2 and 8 months before fading. The photography equipment sat in a case. The brewing equipment lived under the kitchen counter. The cycling gear filled a corner of the spare room. When James added up the total cost of equipment purchased for hobbies that had not lasted more than a year, he arrived at a number that genuinely unsettled him. $4,300. Spent not on lasting joy but on the anticipation of joy that arrived and then passed. The rule James built for himself was specific. Any new interest or hobby would be practiced for 3 full months using borrowed or rented equipment or the most basic possible entry before a single purchase was made. If the interest survived 3 months of honest engagement without the gear, it earned the right to be properly equipped. Most interests did not survive 3 months. The ones that did were genuinely worth investing in. Number 5, performative gifting. This category requires a little honesty to examine because it sits close to relationships and most people are uncomfortable questioning anything that is framed as being about the people they care about. But performative gifting is a specific and identifiable pattern that is worth separating from genuine gifting. Performative gifting is the spending that happens not primarily to serve the recipient but to communicate something about the giver, generosity or thoughtfulness or status or love, to an audience that includes the recipient but often extends beyond them. The elaborate gift wrap on a present that will be torn off and thrown away in 30 seconds. The expensive greeting card with a pre-printed sentiment that is read once and placed on a shelf. The gift chosen at a price point that matches the social expectation of what someone at your income level should spend on this occasion rather than the actual value it would deliver to the specific person receiving it. James spent one Christmas tallying his gift spending and then separately tallying what he knew about the lasting value of each gift to the recipient. The correlation was very weak. Some of his most meaningful gifts had been inexpensive and specific, chosen around genuine knowledge of the person. Some of his most expensive gifts had been generic and forgotten. The price had been communicating to the room. It had not been serving the person. James did not stop gifting. He stopped performative gifting. He started giving smaller, more specific things that required genuine knowledge of the recipient rather than a large budget. The relationships did not suffer. Several of them genuinely improved because the gifts became more personal and less ceremonial. Number 6. Travel convenience purchases. There is a specific category of spending that only exists inside airports and train stations and holiday destinations, and it is priced at a premium specifically because the environment creates a captive market where your normal price anchors have been deliberately removed. The $8 bottle of water airside. The overpriced neck pillow purchased in a panic at the gate because you forgot yours. The travel adapter bought at the hotel gift shop for 4 times its normal price. The miniature toiletry set purchased from the airport pharmacy because the liquids rule caught you off guard again. James tracked his travel convenience spending across 4 trips in 1 year and found it averaged $112 per trip. Not on luxury, on items he either already owned at home or could have prepared in advance for a fraction of the airport price. The solution was not complicated. A dedicated travel kit that lived permanently packed between trips, the adapter and the earplugs and the travel-sized toiletries and the refillable bottle meant that the captive market environment lost its power over him. 1 afternoon of preparation eliminated 4 trips worth of convenience premium. $448 per year returned to his pocket by a single afternoon of organization. Number 7. Premium loyalty tier upgrades. This one is subtle enough that most financially aware people do not notice it operating in their own spending. Premium loyalty tier upgrades are the paid enhancements available within systems you already use, the airline status upgrade and the premium membership tier of a retailer and the paid level of a rewards program. They are sold on the promise of better value, more points per purchase and exclusive discounts and early access and member pricing. And they often do deliver better value on paper. The problem James identified is that they deliver better value specifically when you use the system heavily enough to justify the upgrade. And the act of paying for the upgrade changes your behavior in ways that extract more total spending from you in order to justify the cost you have already committed. James paid for an annual premium tier with a retailer he used occasionally. After paying for the tier, he began shopping there more frequently to justify the membership. His spending at that retailer increased significantly. His savings from the member pricing were real but smaller than the increase in his total spending at that retailer. The premium tier had not saved him money. It had anchored more of his spending to one provider and increased his total consumption from that provider in order to justify a cost he had already committed to. James exited every paid loyalty tier he held and returned to behaving as a genuinely occasional customer at each retailer. His total spending across those categories fell. Number 8. New when secondhand is identical. This spending pattern is driven by what behavioral economists call the new bias, a strong and largely unconscious preference for new items over functionally identical used ones. The new bias has an interesting evolutionary logic. New things have not been exposed to unknown risks, but in a modern context it operates as an expensive and largely irrational premium. James began systematically choosing secondhand over new for any item where the condition could be verified and the function was what mattered rather than the freshness. Furniture, books, tools, sports equipment, kitchen appliances, clothing from quality brands that held their construction across years of wear. In each category, the functional difference between secondhand and new was either zero or negligible. The price difference was rarely less than 40% and often much larger. James kept a simple record of the new bias premium he avoided over 12 months, the difference between what he paid secondhand and what the new equivalent would have cost. The total was just over $3,000 saved in a single year, not by buying lower quality versions of things. By removing the irrational premium he had been paying simply because of the psychological comfort of newness. Number 9. Pre-built convenience food components. This category sits in the grocery store rather than the restaurant, and it is easy to miss because the individual items look modest. Pre-built convenience food components are the items designed to eliminate one simple step from home cooking at a significant price premium. The pre-chopped onion in a sealed bag. The pre-minced garlic in a jar when a bulb of fresh garlic costs a fraction and takes 45 seconds to prepare. The spice blend in a small branded jar when its 3 component spices bought separately cost a quarter of the price and produce a larger total volume. The pre-marinated meat at twice the price of the unmarinated cut with a marinade that takes 4 minutes to make. James went through his weekly grocery shop with fresh eyes one afternoon and identified every item he was buying in its pre-processed form, when the unprocessed version would have taken less than 5 minutes to prepare. The premium he was paying for those combined minutes of saved effort was remarkable. He estimated it at between $40 and $60 per week across a typical grocery shop. That is between $2,000 and $3,000 per year, paid for an aggregate of perhaps 90 minutes per week of saved food preparation. James did not become a serious home cook. He simply stopped paying a premium for tasks that took less than 5 minutes and called that premium convenience. Number 10. Professional services for things a 30-minute tutorial makes accessible. This final category requires the most nuance because professional services are genuinely valuable for complex or high-stakes tasks where expertise matters enormously. But there is a significant category of professional services that most people pay for out of unfamiliarity rather than genuine complexity. Tasks that a competent adult could handle independently after a modest investment of learning time. James had been paying a professional to file his standard personal tax return every year. His tax situation was not complex. He had one employer and standard deductions and no unusual circumstances. The service cost him $320 annually. One afternoon with the government's own free filing software and a 30-minute tutorial video eliminated that cost entirely. The return was accurate. It was processed without issue. He had simply never tried because the category was labeled professional services and the label had made him assume the task was beyond him. James applied the same question to several other recurring professional services he was paying for, the basic car service tasks that a 40-minute tutorial made straightforward and the simple document preparation that a template made accessible. He kept every service that involved genuine expertise or high-stakes complexity. He stopped paying for the ones that were simply unfamiliarity wrapped in a professional invoice. So here is what all 10 of these have in common. None of them were stopped because James decided to live a smaller or less enjoyable life. All 10 were stopped because when he examined them honestly, they were not delivering value proportionate to their cost. The extended warranty was buying a feeling of security, not actual security. The just-in-case items were buying comfort about imagined futures, not genuine protection. The brand name medications were buying confidence in a name, not improved treatment. The hobby tax was buying the feeling of commitment, not the commitment itself. The performative gifts were communicating to rooms, not serving people. The travel convenience items were paying a captive market premium for things he already owned. The loyalty tier upgrades were anchoring his spending rather than reducing it. The new bias premium was paying for freshness that delivered no functional benefit. The convenience food components were paying for minutes of save time at a price no reasonable person would accept if they saw it clearly. And the professional services for basic tasks were paying for unfamiliarity disguised as complexity. James did not stop buying things. He stopped buying the same story attached to things. The story that the extended warranty was protection. The story that the brand name was superior. The story that the new version was better than the identical used one. And when the stories fell away, what remained was a significantly lower monthly cost of living and a significantly higher rate of wealth accumulation. None of which required earning more. All of which required seeing more clearly. Go through your own spending this week and look for one item from this list that is sitting in your account right now. Just one. Look at it honestly without the story attached to it. And ask whether the thing itself, stripped of the story, is worth what you are paying. The answer might surprise you. Share this with one person who has ever wondered where the money goes each month, because sometimes the answer is hiding in the most ordinary-looking places. I will see you in the next one.